Okay, so we're in Perek Beis. So the Ramchal says that somebody who is kind of the shlemus, he calls it shlemus, perfection. Really David boy, the body's boy, if somebody resembles his creator, so clearly he is roy, as Ramchal said, he is proper, or it's appropriate for him to have what's called a state of dveikus. Why? Because he was koina, he acquired the shlemus, the perfection. Okay? And what the Ramchal says in this Gimel, there's several terms that are used. There are several terms that are used. And in many ways they seem identical. The concept of toiv, goodness. The concept of dveikus, attachment. The concept of shlemus, perfection. The concept of tikkun, correction. There's certain terms that seem to be similar. So the real question is, what's the difference between all these terms? Okay. Now, if you had recalled what I had said, is that the concept of toiv, if you remember what the definition was, that which is good means something which enhances a being. It enhances a being. And an evil is a detraction or negation of being. This is the concept of good and evil. And so therefore, when we say that the Baruch Hashem is meitiv, that he will give us toiv, I think I explained what happened to Noidem Habo. Have I explained what happened to Noidem Habo? Have I explained what Noidem Habo is?
Extra existence.
Did I give that idea? I don't know what I said before. No?
Yes.
You mentioned about levels of existence over the levels of being.
Yeah.
But
Never
not in details.
You
Not
never
in
explained
details.
it. You only mentioned it.
It was by the way I mentioned.
You see, what is the toiv that the Baruch Hashem gives? And the answer to that is, what is the greatest toiv that the Baruch Hashem has done for us? You ask yourself, what is it? If you had a label, what's the greatest benefit he has ever given us? You know what that is? Existence. That we are. We exist. Obviously, we have everything in that sense. If we ain't, as they say, we have nothing.
Do you mean that existence is the prerequisite for all toiv? Or do you mean that by itself?
No, toiv, that
It is toiv.
existence itself is the greatest toiv.
But I thought it's separate and it's better not than.
No, that's to be in Olam Hazeh. No, that's not because.
So it's not necessarily a good thing,
What?
existence. It depends
Depends on
how
what.
you will exist or where you will exist.
No, it
What
depends
state.
if there are conditions. The problem is that there are conditions to existence. That's the problem. But the greatest toiv.
There are conditions to good existence.
What?
There are conditions to a good existence.
No, there are conditions to existence altogether.
If somebody is existing in a not good way, he's still existing, but it's not.
No, I'm talking about what will eventually be. If people do not listen to the Rotzon HaBoreh, right, then they will cease to exist. That they're annihilated.
Eventually.
Yeah. I mean, what's the opposite of Olam Habo? Is it Gehenna? No, it's annihilation. Ibud. And you see, once the world has finished itself out.
So it's possible to exist in a way that's not good.
No.
Ultimately, it won't be that way, but it's
suffering.
could.
No.
You need to explain.
In the end, which means after Mashiach and so on and so forth, at the end, which is really the beginning of the 10,000th year, that's when it occurs. The year 9001 or 9000, that's when Olam Habo starts. Okay? Ultimately, there's only one existence, and that's called Olam Habo. There is nothing else. There's no Gehenna, there's no Olam Hazeh, there's nothing else. It's only Olam Habo. It is an existence or a dimension of absolute perfection. You see, there's no Hester, you know. There is the concept of levels, but there's no more Hester of the Rebbeinu Shalom, in the sense that, to whatever extent we can see, obviously, you know. So the opposite of Olam Haba really is Ibud. It's not Olam Haba, it's Ibud, non-existence. So therefore, the greatest gift that God has given us is that we exist. Right? Of course, then there's greatness of that too, because we exist in what manner, or at what level, or what's the quality of our existence. You know, obviously people who exist, you know, who are either very wealthy and they just have fabulous lives. There are such people, by the way. You know.
Where?
Can you give us some names?
Yeah. You know, I was reading yesterday, somebody showed me a magazine, so they were talking about billionaires, you know. The wealthiest man in the world is a guy, Carlos Slim. He's a Mexican. He's worth $69 billion. Not bad.
Not Gates.
What?
Well,
Gates is cheaper.
He's not 50. He had a horrible life.
But in what?
He's a horrible life.
There are many people that pray for his life, his horrible life. What can I tell you, you know? But,
I just pray for his money, not his life. Who says that?
if he lived 1,000,000 years, he couldn't spend that. I mean, it's, you know, it's not, it doesn't make sense even, you know. But anyway, so therefore the greatest gift that the Hashem, but Olam Haba is a place of perfect existence in that sense, you know, which we understand. But that's what Torah is. That the Hashem is native, he gives existence. And then depending on whatever there's certain factors involved, he decides what type of existence you will have. That depends on, you know, where your neshama is located, and also if you're Gilgul and what you did wrong and so on. There are many factors that go into who you are when you are born and so on. Anyway, that's a concept of Tov, okay? Existence. But that's also called Shlemus, perfection. Because perfection, in that sense, is a person has, well, let me put it this way. When a person exists, we exist, so I think we exist, right? We're not aware of why we exist. We're not aware of why we exist, what's behind our existence. We don't know, okay? Most of what we live, most of our lives is concealed from us. But if I asked you, well, what is the nature of our existence? What is our existence really? And the answer is the Rebbeinu Shalom. As I said a long time ago, the Rebbeinu Shalom, as he manifests in this Olam Hazeh, is existence per se. That's perfect. A being whose existence itself is perfect because he has everything. Whatever he wants will exist. Nothing, there cannot be something which is beyond that because it doesn't exist. So in Olam Haba, what happens is we come in contact with him, and we come in contact with the nature of our existence itself. And therefore, to that extent, that's Shlemus, that's perfection. So therefore, Shlemus is a state of an individual who is attached to God, which is Dvekus. And he experiences Toiv, which is existence. You see. And this all occurs in a situation called Tikkun, which means that there's no Hester. Okay, it's what's called Ha'ora as opposed to Hester. In a state of Ha'ora, the Rebbeinu Shalom is manifest in whatever way, in whatever level he wants to manifest. But he is manifest in that state Tikkun. And in that state of Tikkun, which we're all striving for, we become Sholem, perfect. Why? Because we have achieved a state called Dvekus, which is attachment to him. Okay? And the attachment is the experiencing of Toiv, which is existence itself. So in the end, everything really boils down to being and its gradations, as I said, because in Olam Haba, we actually experience degrees of being, which we do not understand what that is now.
So Dvekus means experiencing existence without all the...
Dvekus is a state It's an attachment state.
What does attachment mean?
Attachment, we're attached to God, but not literally. What it means is that the Baruch Hashem now exposes himself, to use that word, to us. That he is our existence. We actually know that, and we feel it. And in that exposure of him to us, as our existence itself, that makes us sholem, perfect. You see.
And we feel existence the way...
Well, we feel him, and we know clearly that he is the existence of us. I mean, we do not know what that means. I don't know. Nobody knows what that state is. But that's what Dvekas attachment means, to connect with him and to experience him. When you attach to something, what are you experiencing? That thing. If I touch this table, yes, I'm experiencing that table directly. If I look at it, I'm not. There's an intermediary, which is a light wave. Light will bounce off the table and hit my retina. And therefore I can see the existence of the table, but I don't have any experience of the table other than sight. But if I touch it, I can feel it. I experience the thing itself. That's called Vekas. It's like touching God, whatever that means. You know, you actually experience him, but what do you experience when you touch God? I'm not even going into all the hano, all the incredible pleasure. I'm not even going into that. But what you're really experiencing is what? Is his essential attribute vis-a-vis how he manifests it to us, which is existence itself. That's really what it is. You know, his essential nature, the way he manifests himself to us, is existence. That's really what it is. So when you're attached, what it simply means is you are actually in touch with him. What are you in touch with? That he is your existence. And in some way, that is the greatest of all feelings. In some way. I try to explain it emotionally. You know, well, you ever feel real? Real. Like all of a sudden, you know, it's like, you know, if you imagine like you get up in the morning one day and all your systems are working incredible, and you jump out of your bed and you scream, wow, another day. I mean, it doesn't happen too often, so, you know, don't worry about it, you know. But when it does happen, you know, let's assume you've won the lottery. I think I just had a lottery ticket for almost $600 million.
Right.
And let's assume before you went to sleep, it was 12 o'clock at night, and you discovered you had the winning ticket. I mean, it's just beyond belief, right? But you can't cash in the winning ticket. It's 12 o'clock at night. You know? So you're going to wake up the next morning, you're going to cash it.
If nothing else, do you go to sleep?
What?
He's going to sleep.
Probably the guy can't sleep. I mean, nobody's going to sleep when he knows he just won $600 million, you know? But imagine the guy did go to sleep because he was really very tired. And then he opened up his eyes and all of a sudden he remembered that he has the winning ticket, right? What do you think he feels like? Unbelievable. It's like beyond belief. It's like the joy and the ecstasy. He just jumps out of bed and says, it's incredible. I'm going to be worth $600 million today. You know, he's experiencing the real effect of reality, you know. So in that sense, those are the differences. Toiv is the payoff. Existence is toiv. That is the payoff. What does it do to us? It makes us sholem. It makes us perfect. Because to connect to a being that's perfect, right? That's the greatest way we can achieve perfection.
You see, we're going to be up against the Ein Sof. The only thing that's going to be divided from Hashem is the fact that we exist outside of Him, and we're going to be right up against that barrier of... Yes, right up against that barrier. In other words, there always has to be some type of hester in order to maintain what's called our zulosoi, other. Right. We have to be an other. Right. If we're not an other, obviously we won't exist. So there's always a hester, a concealment of Einoi Muvadai. You can never understand Einoi Muvadai. Besides God, there's nothing else, right? Because if you understood that, you wouldn't exist to understand that. Because there's nothing else but Him. So how could you pass it? It's an oxymoron. You can't comprehend that you don't exist. So there's always some type of a barrier. There's God and there's you, or
the experiencing of consciousness or self and so on. So that's always there. But to the greatest extent possible, we will experience existence itself, and that God is the existence itself. And that's called Vegas. It's touching the table. You actually touch God in that sense. Of course, we don't know what that means. But that's what happens. So that's what the Toiv is. Vegas is a state, Shlemus is the after effect, and it only happens in the world which is called Tikkun, rectified or corrected. That's really the bottom line. And our whole job is to do what? The whole job of us, of a Jew, of all mankind, is to return to the experiencing of existence itself, which is to connect to God. That's the whole name of the game. You see. That's what Olam Haba basically is. Now, there are other things I'm sure that will happen in Olam Haba. There are other things, other experiences. But that's the essential experience of Olam Haba and so on. You know. So those are the terms used, but they're not synonymous. They just indicate different aspects of our experience. You know? So if somebody asks you, what do you experience in Olam Haba? The answer is Toiv. That's what it is. That's the name of the word. Right? Toiv. How? By what mechanism? Vekas. What will Toiv do for you? It makes you Sholem. You see. That's what it does. And that's, in the end, that's really what it's all about.
Where does existence come into play then?
What?
Then where does existence come into play?
What do you mean?
How does really experience the extra existence?
Yeah, what do you mean comes into play?
How does that relate to the Tov?
Because Toiv is existence. But what I'm saying is that there are levels of existence which we do not know now. See, I mentioned that's why Chazal say, Ayin lo yiraso. The eye has never beheld what is stored up for the righteous. But that's a strange way of saying it. What Chazal should have said, right, is that the mind cannot conceive what's stored up for the righteous. But it doesn't say that. It says the eye has never beheld. It means I can understand it, but I never saw it. How could that be? How could it be something that I never saw, but I can understand? Because there's a difference between not understanding and not seeing, isn't there? But we see Chazal, the rabbis, did what? Their expression wasn't a lack of understanding, it was a lack of experiencing it. And that's why, because we can understand what existence is, we exist now, right? But we've never seen levels of existence. We've never seen degrees of this thing. You see? That's why nobody can comprehend it. Nobody's ever seen degrees. At most they've seen qualities of existence, like a malach. A malach qualitatively is infinitely greater than us, qualitatively. But there's no levels of existence. But qualitatively, in other words, he is. But what is he? So he has incredible attributes, characteristics, his intelligence, the intelligence of a malach, his ability to transcend nature. Whatever they do, they live in a whole different dimension of reality and so on. They're not subject to physical laws or physical limitations. They can appear or disappear, and so on. Even Eliyahu Navi, he can take any form or whatever, and so on. But the truth is, a malach cannot appear to you. It's impossible. When they appear to you, they assume a human guise, like a costume. Somehow they can make the illusion that all of a sudden you see a body, but I think they manipulate light waves, however they do it, But there's no it's an image. Somehow you have an image of a body, but there's no image, right? Because the definition of a spiritual entity is an entity that cannot be perceived by any means. Any means. So the only way they could do that is by creating an image of a physical body, and then you could see it. But you can never detect a malach, you can never see a malach in its real form. You can't do that. which is interesting. So, anyway, it's a good question. Moshe Rabbeinu was one of the few people who went up and came back down. He went up to Mount Torah, so he went up to Shemayim. He didn't eat or drink for 40 days, right? So the interesting thing is, okay, so what state was he in? Was he spiritual? Or was he a physical being that went into a spiritual dimension? You know what I'm saying? And did God suspend the laws of spiritual dimension where he could actually see a malach in its real form? Whatever, unknown. It's an interesting conjecture, But he was a physical being that entered a different universe. And that is an incredible miracle. It's like matter and antimatter existing at the same time in the same place. How can that be? One annihilates the other. What?
There's people that walked right into Gan Eden.
But they're dead.
Eliezer there and Eliyahu Navi.
Sarah. Well, she went alive into it. So the question, there's a couple of people who went alive, then died. Sarah, Basosha, Eliyahu, Chanoich, I think is another one, who went into Olam Haba, not Olam Haba, I should say, but Gan Eden alive. So what does that mean? Does that mean they went in as a physical being? You know what I'm saying? But the truth of the matter probably is that in order to get into Gan Eden with a physical body, that body, they had the same body as what you'll have in Olam Haba. In Olam Haba you have a body, you know that? Yes, you'll all have your old bodies.
Physical?
No, zikuch. The body in Olam Haba, everybody will have a body, which is interesting, and but that body is not physical anymore. It is completely purified of any physical matter. It's like a glass, a translucent plastic that is completely transparent, yet it is somewhat of a cover on the neshama.
What's the point?
What's the point?
Yeah. Why have a body if it's completely...
Well, Ramchal talks about in Per Gimel, Zikuch HaGuf. That's what he calls Zikuch HaGuf. In other words, the universe, the universe is not devoid of something physical, but that physicality is completely translucent, and that does not disappear, and so on. Just that you're not physical anymore,
Are you saying the experience of existence that will happen in Abba is beyond all of these different states?
Yeah, beyond...
It's not just going into a more spiritual state like Moshe Rabbeinu or Sarah Pasasha, but it's...
No, it's beyond, yeah.
Totally different experience.
Yeah, it doesn't...
That type of existence?
It's correct, exactly, yes. That's why nobody has ever seen it. You could tell it, we could talk to me about it, but I have no idea what it... I've never experienced it. If I haven't seen it, it means I've never experienced it. I know what that means. Because existence today is either you exist or not. I think it's called dichotomous. It's A or B, yes or no. But there's no gradations of existence, So we have no idea what that is, you see. But obviously, once you understand that the Ein Sof, what the Moshe is pure existence, then you can understand he could give you more or less. It's not a matter of you have it or you don't. There's more or less of it, and so on, Anyway, that's basically what seems to occur in Olam Haba, And so that's what the Ramchal does. He defines the differences between Toiv and Sholem and Vekas, that they're really different terms that in many ways refers to the same idea. And those are important definitions, by the way, the important differentiations. A lot of people have no idea what these things are. They just, they just use the word, and that's it, and so on. Okay. Any questions? Okay. And obviously the reason Ramchal says why is because we connect to him. It's like Ramchal says, Ka'onafel HaShirish, a branch which emanates from a shirish, a root, will obviously in many ways have that connection, will determine the nature of the branch, the fact that it's connected to a root. So the fact that we're connected to the Rebbeinu Shalom automatically means that we will have a certain similarity, connection. And that connection, ultimately, he, Ramchal, calls it shlemus. But the real concept of shlemus is pure existence or perfect existence. To have everything in it and so on. Anyway, and that word itself, that concept itself, Ramchal introduces two new words, which is very important, and we begin to see why. When things are fabulous, when things are going incredible, why? So we have to point to the origin or the source of all things, which is the Rebbeinu Shalom. Okay? But what is the Rebbeinu Shalom doing that all of a sudden everything is going fabulous? And the answer is called ha'ora, illumination. The opposite of illumination is hester, concealment. Everything, all reality depends on that dichotomy. Are we experiencing ha'ora, illumination of God, or are we experiencing hester, concealment of the illumination?
So that guy who won the lottery, he got the ha'ora, but he has no clue about it.
He certainly got ha'ora.
He has no clue about it, so how can we say Hashem makes it visible now? Hashem is not visible with ha'ora. He got ha'ora, but without any connection to Hashem, without any clue about Hashem.
Yeah, sure. When crops grow, it's because of ha'ora. When they die, it's hester.
But still hester, when ha'ora comes, it still hester, because nobody sees the source of ha'ora.
Yeah, well, there's a hester, of course, there's hester and ha'ora at the same time, But that's called ha'ora. Ha'ora is responsible for everything. Why? Because when God flows his existence, okay, that's ha'ora. And when he conceals it, or withholds it, so to speak, that's called hester.
Someone who receives ha'ara is being davik?
Somebody receives ha'ora. Well, ha'ora is the effect. A person can receive ha'ora and without vekas. One should just want to be mayor to him.
So why is it not vekas? What's not vekas about it?
Vekas is the ultimate state of total ha'ora. But we're not in that state. We're not in a state of vekas.
We don't
but
have smaller amounts of
what?
We don't have smaller amounts of vekas? Even before you're not down?
No, not the vekas of Olam Haba. We could feel or experience certain things about the Rebbeinu Shalom, but we do not experience him the way we will experience him in Olam Haba.
It's the main aim of that, 1 million.
Relative to that, you can call it ha'ora. But the real ha'ora... if I long... What is Vegas? Is attachment.
Love.
Let me ask something. When a person is in a state of Vegas here, what is he experiencing? What is the singular experience of Vegas, really?
An emotion, or what are you
It's an emotion, yeah.
Oh.
It's an emotion.
It's love.
Is it love? Can Vegas be painful? Interesting question.
You should not have.
I don't know.
What?
I don't know why not. I don't know why it should be. But
Why should or shouldn't?
I don't know why it should, but is it absolutely impossible? I don't know. By definition, is it impossible to be painful?
Vegas ultimately, I don't mean ultimately, Vegas here is painful. Why?
Because there's a longing for more.
What was the word you just used?
Longing?
Correct. What Vegas is, ultimately, is an extremely intense emotion of longing or yearning to unite with the Rebbeinu Shalom. Of course, you can call it love, and so on. In many ways, I'll use this example, although it's obviously, what? Lavta, yeah, exactly. Where does the Torah use the word Vekas? By what relationship? Who?
With Davak B'Ishtay.
Ishtar. What'd you say?
Shemini, by Medina.
Same thing.
Yeah, okay. By a woman. But Dovak Ish B'Ishtoi. You know? Okay, so you can use that, you can see what that is in physical terms, okay? But what is Dvekas that type, you know? I mean, a guy goes out on a date. We'll use a real simple example.
We
Okay?
have a professional
A professional what?
dater.
Whatever that means.
I don't know what it means.
Are you married?
No.
Oh, okay.
He needs a bracha, Rabbi.
A guy
Yeah.
A guy goes out with a girl, or a girl goes out with a guy. Either way. Right?
Okay.
It's all relative. Okay. And to use the American expression, they fall in love with each other. Whatever that means. Okay. What are they experiencing? And what's the symptoms of that experience? What they're experiencing ultimately is a tremendous need, right, to be in the presence of the other person. That's what they're experiencing. Right? Yes, that's what happens. When a guy or a girl, when people are in love, what are they experiencing? They're experiencing at that point in time, forget about what will be.
There's a satisfaction being in the presence of it also.
It's more than a satisfaction.
With both.
There's a tremendous joy in being in each other's presence. It's an emotional joy, right? Why? Because they're in love with each other, right? So it produces an emotion of tremendous joy. The greater in love, the greater the joy it can achieve. You can achieve feelings of what's called ecstasy, whatever. Fine, okay. Now all of a sudden, the guy says, or the girl says, from the standpoint of the guy, the girl says, "Listen, I gotta go to Europe because I'm taking a course, whatever, right? They have a course. I gotta go to Europe. I'll be gone for 4 months." So the guy looks and says, "Are you crazy? I might even last without you." Right? And she says, "Listen, what can I do?" And she goes away, and she's gone. Right? And he doesn't see her. Let's assume there's no phone, so there's just no way to contact her, right? What's this guy experiencing? An unbelievable amount of yearning and longing. In fact, he is so much in love that anything else is a distraction to his thinking about the girl. So all he does is think about the girl. Not in a taivadig way, but in just, I want to be with her. I want to stay in the same room and so on. I just want to feel the experiencing of her in my presence, you see? So he's got this incredible feeling of longing and yearning, right? And she's gone and so on. And therefore he finds himself thinking about her on a constant basis, on a tremendous frequent basis. You know what I'm saying? And if somebody walks over to him and says, "By the way, I want to ask you something," it's a distraction, right, in his focus. He's annoyed because this person is interfering with his ecstatic thought pattern, you see. Now, this is true love, true dvekas. But in a certain sense, it's painful. Why? Because when you can't meet the girl or see the girl, or vice versa, the girl or boy, either way, right, and so on, there's a pain in the yearning and the longing. So the guy satisfies that pain and yearning by thinking about her, or she about him. I'm not going into religious implications or the halachic status. I'm not even talking about halachically, Yeshamayim and all that. I'm not even into that, I'm trying to explain the concept of dvekas, because I'm going to use this mashal. Okay, so that's really what it is. A dvekas fundamentally is an experience of intense love. What is love? Love is an emotion that a person experiences when he wants to be united with something, when he wants to constantly be in the presence of that thing. It's an emotion of severe, it's an interesting word, severe needs for attachment. And we feel it as the concept called love.
You mean once people are actually attached, meaning the day after they get married, the day after they're married, then it's not dvekas anymore because they're now attached to
it's the realization of dvekas. It's a realization of dvekas. I mean, it's, finally,
Dvekas is before that?
Dvekas is, if it's not happening, it's the feeling of intense desire for attachment or unification. That's what it is. If it happens, then there's unification, fine. but it's still Dvekus.
So Olam Haba is Dvekus.
What?
Olam Haba is Dvekus.
Oh, the truth is, it's possible to achieve Dvekus here to the Rebbeinu Shalom.
Just in a painful way.
But
Ultimately
ultimately speaking, since you can't have God, you can't have him literally. You can only want to have him, think about him, and maybe feel the joy of thinking about him, but you can't get him, so it is a painful experience. It is a yearning and a longing. Where do you see this? Who died because of Vegas? Ben Azai. Why did he die? He didn't, he died from the joy? No. He died from the longing, and the yearning was so great that he just died. He just couldn't stand being away from God. He died of Vegas. There are tzaddikim that die of Vegas. They reach a certain ecstatic state.
Is that what happened to Rabbi Akiva?
What?
Is that what happened to Rabbi Akiva?
No, Rabbi Akiva died.
No, but this is not the Shema of the Echad.
No, but he said Shema Yisrael came. So his hasaga, the fact that he was motzi nefesh, for the Rebbeinu, and I'm sure there was Dvekus there also and so on and so forth, But Ben Azai died because of Dvekus. Ben Azai was one of the people in Paradise, 4 people that went into what's called the Heavenly Grove, Paradise is orchard and so on, And each one came out differently, Kiva was the only one who walked out showing. Then you had Acher, Elisha ben Avuya, and he became an Apikaris. And so on. Then Ben Bagbag was Ben Hey.
Ben Zoma went crazy.
Ben Zoma went crazy. Ben Zoma, he went insane. And Ben Azai died. And so on. He died from Dvekus, and so on. In other words, the yearning and the longing killed him. That's what it was. His body could not take, whether because his heart gave out. In other words, what happens is an incredible amount of stress. When you have that kind of yearning and longing and you can't get it, it's incredibly stressful to the body. You know what I'm saying? So however the body handles that, his was so intense, he just died, and so on. There are tzaddikim that have died from Dvekus, But that's what it is. Dvekus is a state that there's an unbelievable yearning and longing to be attached to God permanently. But at the and so on. But at the same time, because there is no Dvekus, you're not attached to God in that sense, really, that it's painful. At a certain level, it's painful. Okay, you see. That's really what all tzaddikim aim toward Dvekus. That is the ultimate state.
It's a magnetic state. Meaning it's like 2 magnets trying to attach to each other. Is that what Dvekus is?
Well, it's like a magnetic example. It's like a physical example,
Right.
But that's what Dvekus is, And people in a state of Dvekus don't want to be disturbed. Because it's like the guy in love with a woman or something like that. You talk to him, he says, hey, get out of here. I want to keep thinking of her, whatever and so on, They don't want to be disturbed. They just want to think of the Rebbeinu Shalom. And that's an incredible feeling of joy, to think of the Rebbeinu Shalom. Now, you can ask yourself, anybody in this room ever experienced that?
No.
No?
Not in the sober state.
Now what?
Not while sober.
Exactly.
Well, you guys don't know what you're missing. You guys do not know what you're missing. Because that's really, in the end, that's the end all of the experience. Is to be in a state of Vegas.
Sounds like someone being addicted to drugs.
What?
It sounds like someone being addicted to cocaine. He's just always going to the next.
Well, it's in a certain sense, it is an addiction.
By the way.
It is an addiction.
No, it's good.
It is an
No,
addiction.
that's what it sounds like. You're always waiting. You have your mind set on it.
The problem is, most people are, it's not that they have Vegas, it's not an emotional experience, it's an intellectual experience, and so on, But that's really what Vegas really is. It's the end-all, be-all of everything. But it has to be emotional, not just conceptual or intellectual. We can all say, I really want to be connected to God intellectually, But true Vegas is the same thing with, with romantic notions of a woman. Same thing. It's a tremendous feeling of longing and yearning to be with the Moshe. Question, how do you get to that? How do you achieve that state? It's an interesting idea. Anybody know? How do you achieve Vegas? What?
Think about the godless of Hashem. The Rambam.
The Messiah Shalom. It's how to guide you step by step by step.
How do you get to love anybody?
Or Torah. There's two Rambams.
It sounds intellectual.
By giving to them, saying, just brought them.
How do you get to love somebody, really? I'm not talking about physical looks. You know what I'm saying?
By giving from yourself to someone else.
Yeah, that's
I'm saying I'm not making
that's
If you realize the Ramchal says, because if you realize how your connection to him, he's like a father and you're like a son. You realize that you're
yes. The way you get to Vegas, how do you, when you're longing, is when you realize the relationship that you have to that being. First is to realize who the being is, but that's not going to do it. There are a lot of great things in the world. When you realize what that being is to you, how that being loves you, and wants you to be in the greatest possible shlemus, when you think about those ideas, and the chesed that the Derech Hashem does to each person, we don't even realize the chesed that the Derech Hashem does. Sometimes we see it. It's like I just, whatever, I went on a trip with my wife because it was her birthday, whatever, so we went to an aquarium in, what do you call
Camden.
it? Where? Camden, yeah, in the aquarium there.
Nice.
It's interesting, Then we take a look at the battleship, New Jersey. Very interesting experience to see a battleship. Anyway, so so I took Route 70. Route 70 goes straight to Camden, But it doesn't go straight into it. It stops in the other highways, So I remember that when we were leaving the aquarium, it's okay. I hope I find this 70 again. You could just wander around in Camden, and so on. So we were going to the parking lot. We parked the car. Also, I meet this guy, black guy, and I asked him, I want to go to 70. How do I connect? So the guy tells me, I'm going there. Follow me. What were the odds, right? That exactly when he's coming out of a building, I should meet the very guy. And I followed him, and he went Route 38 one way, and he goes like this on top of his car. That's 70, It's like, it's incredible, What's the hashgocha, the probability that I'm going to meet a guy that will tell me exactly how to get to 70, and he's going there. Not, but it happened, That's chesed. That's hashgocha. And so, So when you think about all the things, the fact that you exist, the fact that you're healthy, the fact that, you have the wherewithal to survive, kids, or hatzlacha, whatever it is, And of course the detractions, but that's because of kapara and all that. So you realize that the Derech Hashem in many ways is an incredible being, And therefore what happens is when somebody's very good to you, you begin to love that person, And that's, so that the Rambam, it's not only to think about how awesome he is, but really, what he does to you, what his relationship with you is, and so on, If you can think about that and really meditate on it in an intense way, you will develop Vegas. You will develop that feeling of a longing to be attached to him, and so on. And so ultimately speaking, Dvekas here and Dvekas Leilam Haba are in many ways different experiences for obvious reasons. But the real concept of Dvekas here, I'm telling you, that's over here, is to develop a feeling, a longing and a yearning to be with him, to want to connect to him, and obviously once you have that, you have the desire to do his ratzon. You want to, and so on and so forth. There's an Indian of you, what's the greatest Yir Shemayim of all? Fear. The different levels of fear of God. Okay? The lowest level of fear is Yir Soinish. You find God will punish you if you do the wrong thing. Then there's what's called Yir Soremus. Right? So I wouldn't translate it as fear, it was more as awesome. when you realize what a being is, and when you study the nature or the attributes of God, you realize the awesomeness,
So
we talk about that.
Being separated from
What?
the greatest fear would be being separated from that.
Well, in a certain sense, yes. But
Not the Einish, but not
Yeah.
have that connection.
The connection,
More
yeah.
Abba, though,
But-
right?
Understand what it is.
but
So
the greatest
but
fear-
the to be
You know what the greatest fear is?
Abba's the-
In many ways, it's an answer to a question. Moshe Rabbeinu, the Rosh was talking to Moshe Rabbeinu, right? And he took a week to get Moshe Rabbeinu said, I'll go. Remember in the beginning of Shmos, the Rosh was sitting talking to him and says, go and take my people out, right? And Moshe Rabbeinu says, nah, come on. Me anoichi, who am I? I mean, it's every excuse in the book. He's saying, finally Moshe, is getting, you can say losing his patience. So finally Moshe says, after, all kinds of statements, which means, no good. Why did Moshe Rabbeinu not want to go? What was the problem here? Was it because of this anivus? Because who am I to go? I'm nobody. Want to send me to take out the Jews from Egypt, and then to bring them to Har Sinai, and then you want to use me to be the conduit? Are you serious? Well, obviously, if the Baruch is saying you, so the Baruch feels that you have the proper credentials. So then what was his problem? You have an idea, what is this, to stand off a being that's the creator? Think about that. You have to think about what that means. He's not talking to a guy. He's not talking to a king. He's talking to a being that is infinite. A being that we have no conception of. Who created the universes, all of it. The Malachim. You can't get bigger than that, right? And he's saying, no, I don't want to go. Why did he say that? How do you understand that? Really? I mean, we would have interpreted that as soon as he says to us, send me, we would have said, why not? Of course, hey, thank you. That's one kind of reaction we would have had, Or we'd say, you want me to go? I ain't going to say no, you kill me. Okay, well, tell me what you want exactly, like this, right? What was Moshe Rabbeinu's problem? You ever think about that? How can a man stand up to God for a week? What was his problem? So the question is, what was the determinant that stopped him from saying yes? Was it anivus? I'll tell you what I think. Wasn't anivus. I mean, you can be an honor, fine, so you're nobody, but God's saying, excuse me, I know you're a nobody, but I want you to go and take him out. I don't care what you would, I send nobodies to do things also. You know what I'm saying? What was the problem? You know what I'm saying? The Moshe was saying, what am I, nobody? I mean, he's the one who made you a nobody, like the Moshe was saying, who gave them out to people? I made you nobody, but right now I want you to be somebody. You know what I'm saying? It's, So what was his problem? So I have my idea. You know what his problem was? The greatest fear of all. And let's go back to the same. Guys, he's engaged to a woman. He's madly in love. I hate to use those examples, but it's a mashal. It's a very important mashal. In many ways, that's the mashal. Shir Shirim. Isn't that what it's all about?
Yeah.
He's madly in love with this woman, right? What's his greatest fear? That maybe she won't marry him, right? That's his greatest fear, right? But what's the fear before that? He has a tremendous fear that he doesn't want to do anything that will hurt her, make her feel bad. You know what I'm saying? Oh, maybe if I say this, she's going to take an offense and she'll be hurt. I don't want her to feel that way. A guy who's madly in love with a person will do everything he can to prevent anything that will bring harm emotionally, physically, any which way. Moshe Rabbeinu said to himself, he said, wait a minute, you want me to go and take the Jews out? We're not talking about a thing that takes 2 minutes. You want me to go to Egypt, speak to Paro, take the Jews out, bring them to Har Sinai, give them the Torah, and then take them to Eretz Yisrael. it's impossible for me not to, in some way, insult you or to do your ratzon. It's impossible. It has to be that I'm going to do something which is connected your ratzon. And therefore, I don't want to harm you in the sense that I love you so much, I don't want you to be aggravated, kaviyochol, about me. So therefore I refuse the whole position. In other words, he's so, look, when the Rosh, you work for a guy, right? The guy can't read your mind. You can have all kinds of thoughts. He doesn't know what you're doing. But you're looking at the Rabbi Hashem is the Mishaleach. He knows exactly what you're thinking. And and his requirements are so precise. They are so exact that he knows exactly what you're thinking, what you're doing at any given moment. And can a guy do Ratzon HaBoreh 100% of the time without in any way doing something which is wrong, a sin, a chet, a hero, anything? It's impossible. You can have a wrong thought for an instant and then get back on track. And meanwhile, you will be choitei. And Moshe Rabbeinu was right. He was choitei. You know what I'm saying? Right after Pari said, well, they have too much free time. He came running back to Rabbi and said, what'd you do this for? Excuse me, what? And the Rabbi punished him. Now you'll see, but you won't see what I'll do to the 31 kings of, And Moshe Rabbeinu in the end was right. It's impossible to do the Ratzon HaBoreh continuously and never falter. So therefore, if a person has such unbelievable dveikus in Baruch Shalom, if a person loves God so much, he won't take the job. Because this kind of a shlichus demands absolute obedience. And I can't do that. It's impossible. I'm going to falter. I'm going to make a mistake. I'll make the wrong cheshbon. Somehow I'm going to aggravate you.
So bring it back to the mashal.
Wait, one second. And if I aggravate you, I can't stand to aggravate you because I love you too much. So I don't want the job. Better not take the job. So Moshe Rabbeinu said, go send somebody else. Somebody who's not as sensitive to dveikus. Somebody who's not as sensitive to aggravating you. But I can't do this. I believe that's why he said no. What?
Is that the correct approach? And if I'm afraid of doing this, I shouldn't do it?
That's my understanding of why he would say no to God. For a week. What?
But is that the correct approach? That fear?
Is it correct? It wasn't correct because Moshe said, I know you're going to aggravate me, but Alpha can't go. Moshe knows what Moshe Rabbeinu is saying. Yet, if you love somebody so intensely, even though the Moshe said, it's funny, I'm so worried I will aggravate you or cause you kaviyochol pain that I will not do your ratzon. Because that's the ratzon HaBoreh. Go and take them out. It's a paradox. That right now I am aggravating you. Right now I am aggravating you. In other words, he's so concerned about aggravating God that he is aggravating God. You see? But maybe he figured, listen, maybe the Rosh will let me off the hook, and that's it, okay. But something which takes years to do, there's no way I can go around and aggravate the Rosh. So that's the concept of Asher Ish Mefachi Tomid. Happy is the man that is always frightened, or rather fearful. Why? Because he's always worried that I may do something that will aggravate or connect the Ratzon HaBoreh, that in some way Kaviyochel will make him mad, or aggravate him, or insult him, or whatever. That's my uptight to why he could stare.
And because he's
say no for a week, which is because I find that absolutely mind-boggling. To say to God no for a week. It's like, the only other instance I find which is also beyond belief. You have to think about this, What story is that? Where somebody stood up to God? No, in the Chumash. Who else stood up to God?
Abraham?
When? By Sidon. Yeah. You imagine what it is there, Ashofet Kolosh Liyasa Mishpah? You know what that is to say the judge of the world shouldn't do justice? Huh? Excuse me, what? You know, I mean, no, you're not going to kill them. Of course not, you know. It's like, you know, who are you standing up to? You're standing up to...
Mago in the circle, I'm not going to lead till it rains?
Yeah, okay, so he didn't stand up to God because he wasn't talking to God in any sense. It was his chus, so he said, I'm not going to leave, but it was a tefillah. It wasn't, there wasn't a communication. Avraham Avinu is talking to the Baruch. He's talking to him. And he's saying, yeah, you're not going to kill these people. Come on, if they're 10 people, 50 people, whatever, and so on. But the kindness, what do you mean? You're the great judge. How could the great judge do injustice? It's like, you know who you're talking to? This is me. Think about that. Who are you talking to? You know, when you talk in front of a king, you talk with more respect. Well, your highness, the exalted majesty, please forgive me, and so on. But maybe I can make a suggestion. Avraham Avinu didn't say make a suggestion. You know, please forgive me. I want to make a suggestion. Of course, in no way am I insulting you. I mean, there's so many different, you know, it's what's called hedging your bets. You're not just coming out, hey, just, you know, I just said it, you know, hey, no, you can't do this, you know. That takes guts, real courage. Because the Baruch could easily have said to Avraham Avinu, you know, I'm annoyed at what you're doing. And the last thing in the world you want to do is annoy God. I mean, you really don't want to annoy him. So you get on his bad side, like I say, you know, it's all over, you know. It's like they say, you know, whatever. But he did it, you know, that's, you know. So these two instances are incredible. The only way I could say that, well, for Moshe Rabbeinu at least, is that he said no, because I know it's impossible for me to continuously do your ratzon. It just won't happen. And at somewhere along the line, I'm going to aggravate you, and I'm going to cause a chil Hashem. Remember what he said by the rock? Because you and Aaron didn't lahagdisheni, to sanctify me in the eyes of Chayesville. Wow. I mean, it's terrible. Anyway, so that's the kind of yira. But that kind of a yira, so there's yira so'inish, yira so'roimus, fear of God, fear of punishment, fear in terms of awesomeness, and then you have the fear of aggravating, of hurting him, and so on. And those are the three major fears, and so on. But who can have the last one? Who can have the fear that I don't want to do this because I'm not going to do it continuously right, I have to make a mistake, I got to slip up. Only somebody who has incredible devekas. Same thing. Somebody who loves another being with such unbelievable intensity, he can have that yira, that I will harm or hurt that person, you see. So that just shows you the madrega of Moshe Rabbeinu, you see. But that's what dvekas is. So you now know what it is. If you ever wake up and you long for God, you yearn, and it's painful, you have achieved dvekas.
Can you contrast that dvekas that we have nowadays with the dvekas in Haba? We have the yearning, and you experience, someone who has Moshe Rabbeinu, he experiences existence more than the regular person?
No, it's not that type of dvekas, because you don't experience more existence. The dvekas noidam haba, which is an attached state, is where you experience the Rebbeinu Shalom as your existence itself.
And we only yearn.
I would imagine that's yearning. I mean, I would imagine concomitant with that, parallel to that, there is an incredible yearning to be with the Rebbeinu Shalom. I would imagine that includes what I'm saying. But the dvekas here does not have that component. So it's purely a longing and a desire, you know. But a person has to want that type of dvekas. But that really is where all tzaddikim are after, that state. When you hit that state, you've hit it. You've made it. That state.
But you can have satisfaction in this world also. No, it's not only the yearning. There's the joy and satisfaction too.
They parallel each other, exactly. It's like the same thing. Just
in other words, also.
Yeah. It's like, again, same thing. You're madly in love with a woman, or vice versa.
Right.
Woman and man, you know, and they're thinking about each other all the time. You know, so there's an ecstasy about the thought. And the thought connects you to the person. But at the same time, there's a pain at the fact that the person's not here.
So in other words, a person has a joy because since he intellectually knows, or he has an emunah that Hashem exists, so he feels himself in the presence, and therefore he has the joy that he is in the presence of Hashem.
Yeah.
Even though he can't feel the presence, but he is aware of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that gives the person joy.
Yeah. Let me tell you something. It is a very, very difficult state to achieve, obviously. You know, you can go through your whole life, never once experience that feeling of love which is so intense that it breaks boundaries. And then you'll have the yearning along with it and so on, you know. But that's what tzaddikim aspire to. A real experience of love with God. That's v'yohavta Hashem Elokecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'yadeicha. How many people experience Ahavas Hashem, real Ahavas Hashem? I'm not talking about intellectual. Yes, God, I love you, I love you, I love you. No. I'm talking about real love, where you feel it. That's what tzaddikim aspire to. You know,
do you have to do it on your own, or can someone else help you do it? Like Hashem took stories where they all held hands by child shooters.
I want to tell you something.
They practically went to Shemayim, and if they didn't let go of their hands, they would have been lifted.
Yes, but remember, without the study of Hashkafa, I believe you cannot get there. It requires the study of God, of who He is, His awesomeness, and His incredible relationship to humans, and so on, and the incredible chesed, the good things that He's done. It requires thinking about that, you know. I do not believe, not thinking about Hashkafa or about these things, you know, I do not believe that a person will achieve dveikus. Not that. Yeah, they'll achieve other things, but not real dveikus. You see, you have to, and you have to be mispalmed, that the Baruch Hashem open up your heart to understand that He helped you get dveikus. You need incredible sight of this mind.
Is Hasidus more focused on dveikus?
I think so, yes.
And do they do it through thinking about chesed, or do they have
Why is that?
mediums?
Think about this. Think about this. What area do you have to be involved with in order to get real dveikus? Remember, I think we once spoke about that there are 6 different instruments as part of the avodah. Remember that? The avodah. You have to be an oived. If you're an oived, you can hit it. How many people are oived? Oivdim. I'm not talking about guys who are sitting on Gemara. No, that's avodah, of course. That's not the avodah that I mean. You know, avodah is what the Mesilas Yesharim says. The whole concept of tzaddik, noki, zoriz, zohir, kodosh. That's the avodah. It's a true engagement in perfecting the character traits of a person. How many guys are oivdim really? People are oivdim, it's almost a lost species, you know. So if you look at it, I mean, I'm not saying, you know, it would seem to me that more Hasidim should do it than Litvisha. I'm not saying there aren't Litvisha that do it, I'm sure there are, but to me it sounds like the overwhelming majority, you know. You should know the avodah of avodah, you know, how many guys are working on themselves through the Mesilas Yesharim? How many? You know? Very few. You know, you could sit, look, Torah is its own dveikus, but it's not a direct work on avodah. It's not the avodah directly. You know, you do it when you learn Torah, so your neshama is misdabek with a certain awe. Of course that happens, you know. But it's not, you know, it's not Chovos Halevavos, it's not Mesilas Yesharim. It's not that. So if you don't work on the avodah itself, I don't believe you can ever achieve a dveikus. That doesn't mean you won't feel spiritual at times. You will. You'll feel attached to God, but not this. You know? As some poet once said, better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. Robert Lovelace. I still remember that from high school. Anyway, you know, because if you've loved and you've lost, at least you know what love is. You've experienced that incredible emotion, one of the most intense emotions a human being can experience, okay? You lost it, but at least you know what it is, try to get it back again. You know what I'm saying? But if you never loved, you have no idea what it is. That was a famous line from that poet and so on, you know.
So the avodah is basically a way of making sure that you're getting into a state where you're the most similar possible to Hashem.
Yeah.
I mean, that's another condition to love. Like when two people are very similar to each other, they feel.
If they're aligned together.
Aligned.
Yeah.
So there's a chesed, but there's other things besides just thinking about chesed. You also have to be aligned to Hashem.
Yes. Well, that's the rotzen habura. Yeah. You know. But ultimately, you know, that's what it's in many ways. What the Ramchal wrote was a perfect guidebook. He said, "I will show you how to become a kodesh." What's a kodesh? Dovuk. That's a guidebook. He shows exactly how to achieve that, and so on. You know. That's why the Ramchal was so singularly unique. It's one of the greatest Musas form ever written, because it doesn't deal with midas, kas, anger, gaiva, you know, and so on. It doesn't deal with midas, bitochen. It deals with levels. You know, it deals with, okay, the avodah has many different levels to it. And here's how it looks. And here's how to acquire it. And here's what to stay away from that will not allow you to get it. That's why the Messiah Song is an incredible book.
Why would they write
it? It's a guidebook. It's a manual.
Why would they write it to Ramchal so much in his door, and Klal Yisrael wasn't Makabel stone until 250 years later?
There were people who were Makabel, but he had tremendous reliefus, persecution. Part of the problem was he came right after Shabtai Tzvi, who became a Muslim in the end. And therefore, you know, Ramchal was unique. I mean, he was 20 years old, Yagil Eliyahu. Eliyahu used to reveal himself. He was 20 years old. Ramchal was a very unique person, you know. And he had no beard. Though in Italy they didn't grow a beard, whatever. And he wasn't even married. He was incredible Kabbalah, so people were very afraid. You know, oh, here comes another Shatz. You know, and therefore they were right of him. He wasn't the only one. They were right of the Baal Shem Tov. And Yonis Leibshitz. There were a couple of guys that they really went after. I mean, big time. You know, and so on. And if not for the Rebbeinu Shalom, all these people would have been destroyed. You know, and so on. You know, look, Klal Yisrael makes mistakes. Look at what they did to the Rambam. They burnt his works. You know, and so on. You know, there are a lot of people. The Rif, most people don't know. The Rif lived to a very old age, I think almost to 100, which is highly unusual in those years. The average lifespan was like 40 or 35, you know. But they were right of the Rif. You know that? Because how dare you make a commentary on whatever, how dare you make an abridgment of the Gemara? How dare you do that? They were right of the man. They persecuted, they ran after him, whatever they did to him. He had a terrible life, you know, because he wrote, how dare you take the Gemara and shorten it? What is this? I'm an abstraction of Gemara? So on. And to us, the Rif is Kodesh Kodashim. The Rif, you know, look. Hey, what's today's Parsha? This week's Parsha. Korach. Even Moshe Rabbeinu had his enemies.
Right.
And you know, and he had the greatest haskam of all, the Rebbeinu Shalom, you know. So what are we going to say? You know what I'm saying? Oh, what are you going to say? You know? Even Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't escape, you know, being persecuted by Korach and Va'adosai, you know. It's not just one man, and a whole group. Dosan Vaviram, all these guys, you know. Anyway, you should know one thing. I have told you something which you can go through your whole life and never hear it. I have told you what Vekas is. You don't realize that, you know. The only one you get an answer to that, you got to go to some incredible Rebbe and ask him, what are you experiencing, you know, when you daven? You know, I mean, who's going to go there, right? You know? So, you know, I've told you something that most people have no inkling. Yeah, they know the word Vekas. They have no inkling of what it is, you know. You know what it is, you know, and you know how to get there. You need to be an Oived. If you're not an Oived, it won't work, you know, and it's not enough to be a Talmid Chacham. I don't care if you know Shas. If you don't do the Avodah, you will not be a Dovak. Yeah, you'll reach Madregas, there's no question about that, but not Vekas. You need the Mesilas Yesharim. You need these forums that tells you how to work on yourself and so on, you know. That's the only way to get there. But you'll know what it is when you get there. You know you have this incredible joy thinking about God. and this incredible yearning and longing to be unified with Him. And when you get that feeling, you've got it. You are now a Derech.
There are certain times when a person can experience like a short burst of such a thing. A person's swept up in
yes, it's like it's like exactly, yeah. But the problem is when it goes, it's gone. And the person doesn't say, wait a minute, can I actually work to get it on a steady basis? You know, or was it just some spontaneous emotional uplift? Yeah, there are times, but I hold that's a gift. I hold it's a gift that Hashem says, listen, let me show you what it's like. Because if you don't know what it's like, why you work on it, right? So all of a sudden the guy, let's say sometimes the guy's uplifted to a tefillah, or somebody else there has an idea, you know, or somebody...
You can look at that as a level of avodah.
Which?
The person has a tefillah or a Yom Kippur.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
it's spontaneous.
It's a one-time thing.
It's not such a organized avodah, but it is avodah.
That's why he gets the burst.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good word. It's a burst of Vegas, but it's gone. The question is, now what are you going to do? You know what I'm saying? Are you going to really work at this? Because the object is to keep it steady.
Tehillim does that, I'm saying.
What?
Tehillim.
For vodka,
Tehillim v'kavana.
Yeah. Especially if you know the words, the meaning of the words. If you just say Tehillim, there are people who rattle it off. They say Tehillim every day, and they're doing their work and they're just saying Tehillim. You know? I don't mean that.
Oh.
But there are people who say Tehillim, with kavana. You need to say it with kavana, with meaning. It's always remarkable to me, we daven every day. Most people have no idea what they're saying. Okay, if you say something in Lashon HaKodesh, that's very good, because that itself, because Lashon HaKodesh is so holy, whatever, that it can bring down all kinds of shabos, and so on and so forth. But tefillah, actually today tefillah is one of the greatest ways of getting dveikus. If a guy does it, what you should do is get yourself an art scroll, however it goes, and learn the meaning of the davening, and then daven slowly, But most people, they don't do that. They just daven and they try to have feeling for it, but if you don't know what in the world you're talking about, what feeling are you going to get? You need to understand the tefillah, and you need to think about what the words mean. And then with that, as it becomes more what's called nisames, as it becomes more verified to you, you will begin to feel that way, yes. Tefillah is one of the ways of achieving vekas, but only if you know what you're saying.
As far as we add singing to tefillah.
Okay, yeah, it's more of a chant than a song, isn't it? It's more of a chant.
It depends. Depends what part, depends which...
But I find after a while it becomes rote.
It could, yeah.
Saying, to daven, but how many people are even in tefillah? It's also part of the avodah tefillah, really, Most people don't. It's hard to find a minyan where you can do that. Zip. You go like 1, 2, 3. How can you be mechavan such a minyan, really, But there's no question about that. Tefillah is one of the ways, if you do it with meaning and do it slow, is one of the ways of achieving vekas, yes. It is, What can I say? Anyway, that's what it is. Vekas, toiv, shleimus, tikkun. I think it's what we got a handle on what some of these terms mean and so on and so forth. So I think it gives you a good understanding of what's happening and so on. And you never know. Maybe somebody will become a Derech. You on the internet. Try it.